Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Buffalo Sports Center. I am, of course, your host, Don, and today we are going to mock draft the Buffalo Bills. Yes, the draft is only 9 days away at the time of recording, and the Bills, I think it's the worst kept secret in the NFL that the Bills are going to draft a wide receiver with their first selection in this upcoming draft. But we're still going to mock it anyways. We're going to predict who the Bills are going to take with their lots of picks here in this 2024 NFL Draft. But before I get to all the picks, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, follow us on Instagram, and join the Discord. All of those links are down in the description below. Now, let's look at our wide receiver, our given wide receiver here. And, the guys here at Buffalo Sports Center, we are predicting that the Bills will select Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver out of Texas, with their first round pick here in the upcoming draft. Adonai Mitchell, he is really, really good at, vertical long speed. Not the best in contested catches, though, but he had a very productive season last year with Texas. He was very good with them. 845 reception yards. He's got a wide catch radius. He's best with go routes, posts, and digs. So he'd be really good to stretch the field a little bit for the Buffalo Bills. Now, is that something they necessarily need? Probably. Gabe Davis is gone. Khalil Shakir can really mop up and take over the small Cole Beasley-esque slot receiver range. So that is like the 5 to 10 yard range maybe. And then Adonai Mitchell can take the top off of defenses. So that's what he's good for. What he's not so good with is yards after catch, which is a quality that both Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane have both been harping on, that they want their playmakers to be really good in yards after catch. That's part of the reason why last year the Bills selected Dalton Kincaid, tight end, with their first round pick, because he is really good at yards after catch, and we saw that time after time after time. So Adonai Mitchell, he's going to have to improve in that facet. He's not very decisive going down the field. And he's also not, like I mentioned before, not too great in contested catches, but he will be an exciting wide receiver pickup. And, we are selecting Adonai Mitchell given that Brian Thomas is off the board. I think Brian Thomas is probably the best wide receiver that's supposed to be going around in this range. We could see him going as high as Pittsburgh, a couple picks before Buffalo, and I wouldn't say he's going to drop off in a day two, barring something unbelievable. It's much more likely that Adonai Mitchell or a guy like Xavier Legette or Ladd McConkey are all available around this range, but we felt that Adonai is the most complete wide receiver at this point. He can be developed into a more complete wide receiver, but for now, he'll be good for taking the top off of defenses. Let's continue on now, folks, and talk about the safety for Miami, Cameron Kitchens. He's very athletic. He would definitely step in and become one of the starters at the safety position after the departures of Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. A couple months ago, he's really good at playing just like an overall safety, center field kind of boss of the land. Really good at that. He has excellent eyes and excellent ball tracking ability. Now, some negatives for him. He can be prone to coverage lapses when carrying in zone defense, which is what the Bills play in. So maybe not a good decision there to pick him up. But he also has really good closing ground speed on deep passes. That's something that made Jordan Poyer one of the best players in the NFL. Now, another big problem for Kitchens is that his initial attacks downhill towards the line of scrimmage are sometimes a little too narrow. That leaves him to being beat onto the outside when wide receivers or running backs kick it to the outside. And his tackling form could be better, but all of those are improvements. Those are not inherent flaws in Kitchens. They can be improved. Sean McDermott has a knack of taking these project defenders and turning them into stars. And Kitchens would probably have to be in that same kind of category. Let's move on now to the Bills' fourth round picks. They start day 3 at pick 128 in round 4, and we have them selecting Jonah Ellis, edge out of Utah. And he's got really good acceleration off the line of scrimmage, solid strength to collapse the pocket with a bull rush or a pull push move, and he's very physical against the run. So those are the good things about Jonah Ellis. He is very physical, very big. he'd be very good depth for the Bills. And, they've struggled to draft edge rushers over the last couple of seasons, namely Boogie Basham, AJ Epinesa. They all come to mind. So Jonah Ellis would not have to be a starter, though. He could be a season backup for the Bills. That's all they're asking him to do. And maybe he gets a couple of more snaps here and there, depending on if Von Miller continues to suck for the Buffalo Bills. Now, some negatives for Ellis. He can be heavy-footed. His lateral movements are not the best, and his injuries have been a huge concern for him over the last couple of years. They're starting to accumulate for him over the last couple of seasons with Utah. So those are some negatives, but overall we think he'd be a good project edge rusher who could step in and be a solid backup on day one. Now, the Bills also pick 5 picks later, and we also think they'll take another defensive lineman, this guy being Tyler Davis from Clemson. He's got, like Ellis, really good acceleration off the line of scrimmage. Hard to move. Once he gets anchored down in his spot, it's very tough for offensive linemen to move him. He's a big boy, measuring in at 6'2" and over 300 pounds. Now, the negatives about him, he doesn't take up the most space in the world. He's got shorter arms, and, as someone who does have shorter arms than myself, I can tell you that's a real big hindrance to playing defense in football and sports in general. Another negative that sometimes he does get caught off guard by down blocks, and he will get kicked to the inside, and a lot like Jonah Ellis, he does have injury concerns over the last couple of seasons. So if you're a big guy who who likes durability in his defensive lineman, I'm not sure you'd love these 2 picks, but the athleticism is there, the tape is good. Both of these guys could be very good backups for the Buffalo Bills. Let's move on now as we move into some of the later rounds here for the Bills. And we'll take a look first at round 5. The Bills will have 3 picks in round 5 at 144, 160, and 163. And to start things off at pick 144, I have the Bills taking Jalen Wright, running back out of Tennessee. He's got elite speed, very explosive, and he has that home run ability that James Cook sometimes has, but it would really be highlighted by Jalen Wright. Now, I don't know if the Bills, with Cook being their top back, if they want more of a bull rusher. We decided here at Buffalo SportsCenter to go with a guy that complements Cook, much like that. Cook has better hands in the receiving game. Jalen Wright, just kind of your straight down the line, go downhill rusher. That's what he excels in. Now, some negatives about Jalen Wright is that he's not a bull rusher. He can't plow through tackles like Latavius Murray did last year for the Bills, and he can be prone to hesitation, in which case he does kick it to the outside. And that could be a huge problem for the Bills, as, you can lose yardage doing that. And, he just has to work on that. The running backs coach is going to have to work on his hesitation, bringing that down. And that may result in him not having too many snaps at first, but I think Jalen Wright, with that home run ability, could be a huge part of this Bills offense. They'll have to find ways to be much more complementary, to spread the ball to a lot of different guys. Wright could be one of those guys for Josh Allen. Let's go to pick 160 now. We return to the defense here for the Buffalo Bills, as here at BSC, see the Bills selecting MJ Devonshire, cornerback out of the University of Pittsburgh. And he's very good at mirroring wide receiver motions and movements. He's able to very quickly swivel his hips and feet to recover ground. He can match releases very fast, and he has high IQ in terms of recognizing routes that are about to be run against him, and he has good recognition ability of what plays are about to happen. So those are the positives. Now to the flip side, his frame is extremely light. He needs to learn how to control more of his length in press man, and he is one of the older prospects in this draft. He's going to be 24 at the beginning of this upcoming 2024 NFL season, so an older prospect for sure. I guess that could bring more experience with him, but not as much to mold there for NFL coaches as you were with maybe a 19, 20, or 21-year-old. And let's go now to pick 163. We have Hunter Norzad, center out of Penn State. Now, with the Bills releasing Mitch Morse, there definitely is some need for more depth and reinforcements along the offensive line. I know that Connor McGovern is slated to become the full-time center with David Edwards replacing him at left guard, but Hunter Norzad could be the understudy for a couple years. He's a very good zone run blocker. He's good at pulling and taking out guys, and he's very quick off the line of scrimmage. That's good. He excels in securing reach blocks and is good at getting combo blocks as well. But the problem with him is that his framework is not the cleanest right now, and he has below average mass. So he's not the biggest offensive lineman in the world. But like I said, he could be an understudy for a couple years as Connor McGovern does his thing as the starting center. And now let's move on to our next final couple of picks here for the Bills. We'll move into round 6 with Brennan Jackson, edge out of Washington State. Yet more reinforcements for the Bills along the defensive line, and that's one thing we've seen with Brandon Beane during his time as GM. He loves going for defensive linemen. He always believes there could be value in the D-line position. Now, is it debatable that the Bills are going to double down and not take a wide receiver and instead take another edge player? Yeah, but with Von Miller declining, that's kind of necessary. And Brennan Jackson, he is very fast at the line of scrimmage. He is very physical at the point of attack as a run defender as well, so he can play. He has the strengths in both run stopping and pass rushing. Yeah, almost lost my train of thought there. The wind was going around here. And some negatives, though, unfortunately, for Jackson is that he's inconsistent with the snap count. He's got poor use of his hands, and sometimes he does have poor block recognition as a run defender. So those are all things that have to be taken into account with Jackson. Now at pick 204, Tyron Tracy, junior running back / kick returner out of Purdue. And, it's not our plan to really take 2 running backs. I know Damian Harris and Latavius Murray are both gone, but Ty Johnson is still there. So realistically, you probably only need 1 more running back to compete for a roster spot. So that begs the question then, why bring in Tyron Tracy? Well, it's the kick returning aspect that we really are interested in because the Bills don't really have a bona fide kick returner as of right now. Ty Johnson could be that guy, but if he's going to be the main backup to James Cook, then it's pretty important that the Bills try to find someone else to do that job. And for Tracy, he is a very good kick returner. He had a positive season in that role in 2023. The only problem for him is that he's got below average vision between the tackles, which is why he's never really developed into a bona fide running back. That's why he's kind of a hybrid of sorts. And now let's move on to our final pick in this upcoming draft. And you'll notice throughout this entire draft, folks, that we didn't get very trade heavy. I do think that Brandon Beane will trade, but for the purposes of this video, we mocked it out and hypothesized that the Bills would keep all of their picks here. We didn't think they would trade here in this scenario. We may do another mock draft where they do pull off a couple of moves, but for this video alone, we will see the Bills remaining conservative and use all 11 of their picks. And with their final pick in this draft, we mock the Bills taking linebacker Darius Masau, and for him out of UCLA. And for him, it's very interesting the parallels between him and Matt Milano. He's a smaller linebacker. He has a habit of taking on blocks square and has shorter arms. Both of those are kind of characteristics for Matt Milano when he came out of college. Now, he's a good run defender and he's very quick to diagnose plays. He's got a high IQ for a linebacker as well. And that's also like Matt Milano. So maybe you found your next Milano here. I know he's still got a couple more years left on his current deal that he just signed. But, hey, you bring in another guy that's kind of like him. Eventually, a couple years down the line, you may have a natural successor in Masao. So, folks, that's it for this initial mock draft. The draft is in 9 days. Let me know in the comment section, who do you guys think the Bills will be taking? I was Don. This is Buffalo SportsCenter. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and I hope to see all of you in the next video. Peace out, everyone. Bye.